What is up, YouTube? We are back with another video. Today we are going to be reviewing my 2022 MT-07. I've had this bike for about 2 weeks now, and I've been riding it pretty much every day that I can. Florida is really cold, so it's been making it kind of miserable. Luckily today we're actually looking at 64 degrees, so it feels good. Just got one layer on. That's good enough for me. This bike only has 4,000 miles on it, and it is basically completely stock. There is the turn signals and integrated turn signals that have been done to this bike, but as for anything that's actually interesting as a mod, has not been done. We still have that big canister on there. Sounds like a scooter, so you're not gonna get the review of the sound in this video, but it is what it is. There also is obviously no tune because the exhaust is not changed. So this is basically, if you were looking for a MT-07, this is what it would look like out of the dealership, minus, I mean, the turn signals would just be sticking out here. It's just an integration. I got this bike because it was local to me, and I figured I might as well just try another naked bike. I actually had a 2014 Z1000, so I've had naked bikes, actually even a Suzuki DRZ. I don't really count that as a motorcycle though, it's more just like a dirt bike that's legal for the street. Now this, obviously, is definitely a street bike, but it's a naked bike. I am actually a fan of the naked style, but actually a lot of it has to do with the engine that's in between my legs though, because I really liked my Z1000 because it was still an inline 4 1000cc bike. Now this is just the Yamaha CP2 engine, it's a parallel twin. I like it, but it doesn't feel as smooth as like an inline 4 would, basically. So I think if I had actually gotten an exhaust for this bike, which I'm not going to do, I'm not going to have this bike long. This is just a temporary thing. I'll be getting rid of it here soon. But if I did keep it, I would need a new exhaust. And I know that if I did the exhaust, I would enjoy this bike a lot more because it sounds like a scooter. It doesn't exactly feel like a scooter, but it sounds like one. Alright, let's go ahead and go for a ride. The weather is beautiful right now, so we might as well take advantage of it because it is supposed to get cloudy later. So let's hop on and go for a little ride. We'll say I really like the way the dash is on the MT-07. I know that the newer MT-07s and the newer MT-09s have different dashes, but for this generation, I really like this more than the newer generation. I think the newer one is more like a TFT dash and it comes up here, but I really like that this dash is in line with the handlebars. It's just less in front of you. Yeah, and when I first got this bike, it had the ABS fuse pulled, which, you know, that probably means that the guy was a wheelie guy or he just liked to drift his bike. I put that back on because I wanted to use this bike the way it was intended, to feel it out. And I'll tell you, the ABS is crazy. Like, it engages immediately and it feels like the bike is breaking in two, but that's just how ABS pretty much always feels. So, oh yeah, and that was a startup, by the way. I was talking during it. Yeah, it doesn't sound like much if you don't have an exhaust for it though. Yeah, it's pretty weak. But you get the exhaust. These bikes sound amazing. If you've ever been around an R7, they sound, I mean, it's the same engine. So with an R7 that has an exhaust, it's going to sound exactly like an MT-07 that has an exhaust. And I will say that they do sound really good. I just don't want to go drop another close to $1,000 to get this thing tuned and have an exhaust when I'm not even going to keep the bike that long. And I'm also scared that if I did get the exhaust, I would love this a lot more and want to keep it. But that's not why I got this. I got this purely to experience a different type of motorcycle. And I, so far, am absolutely loving it. Other than the fact that I just don't like the way this engine feels. This engine is not exactly smooth. Like, it's smooth, but it's not at the same time. It's got a little bit of a rumble, like, feeling to it. It's kind of hard to explain. If you've ever ridden an R1, sometimes when you take off it feels like there's gravel in the gearbox, but that's just the crossplane engine. And I feel like this has a similar feeling when you take off, but once you get into like middle range RPM. This thing smooths out and it feels really nice. We're just going around the Daytona Speedway, as you can see. Big, what? I didn't know they had a Ferris wheel set up in there. So the Rolex 24-hour, I believe it's called, just happened. Now I bet you they're still cleaning up, but I didn't know they had a Ferris wheel up in there. Yeah, as for speed, this bike is not that fast. And I watched a couple other review videos before buying this, and they were like, if you're buying this bike for speed, you're buying it for the wrong reason. But if you're buying it to have a good time, go ahead and do it, because I agree, it is a good time. It does have torque. It does. So as for maneuverability, this bike is so flickable. It's got a great turning radius, and I noticed that because if you're familiar with my Instagram, all my bikes are stored inside, and to maneuver them in a small living room like area, they need to have good turning radius, and if they don't, it's a 1,000,000-point turn to get them in and out of that house. But this bike, it takes, I mean, it's almost just a 3-point turn. It's really easy to get out of my house, well, minus the bars. The bars are wide, so I have to do some kind of like shimmy thing to get it in and out, but it's not really a big deal. And most people who are buying a motorcycle are not worried about trying to fit it through a front door. So that's just my own issue. Wouldn't even call it an issue. I love that this bike has a gas gauge. I'm used to the whole gas light comes on, you got a couple miles to go find yourself a gas station, but this at least tells you where you are, how much gas you got left. But it also has the gear indicator, time, and a couple other different things that pop up, like your miles per gallon average, your trip 2, trip 1, the odometer, obviously. Oh, got a green arrow. The outside air temperature, and it also tells you your bike temperature, like most motorcycles do. Yeah, this windscreen is not stock, does not come with the bike, but I thought when I bought it I was going to take it off because I really want the naked, nothing in front of me, naked bike vibes. But I really like the way that windscreen looks from, a third person looking at the bike, not on it. The headlights don't look like traditional headlights, so it just looks a little strange to me, but that really ties it in and just makes it look all flowy, smooth. Oh yeah. And this bike feels so good to lean over. Like, I'm not leaning over crazy right now, but like it can handle itself in a turn. You don't have to do too much work. You can pretty much just kind of sit on the bike and it'll do it for you, as long as you're confident with your own abilities to turn. They've ruined this little section of road with all this construction. It's bumpy now. So I have not reached this top speed on this bike because I literally have no reason to do it, but this bike apparently can reach 130, which, that's plenty. That's plenty for a naked bike. Anything above that, you're just a sail on the wind and it's uncomfortable, especially with your head. If you don't have a good aerodynamic helmet, your head is just going to be wobbling all over the place. You're going to have a really, really sore... Oh man, that just sounds weird. Maybe I won't say that. Yeah, I don't know. Your neck just gets all worn out from it. If you had a Pista, you probably wouldn't, but yeah. I just posted a reel about buying a Pista, how I was going to cave eventually. Well, I can't do that now because this bike got me a wheelie ticket. I don't know if I really did wheelie, but a motorcycle cop said I did and pulled me over, and now I have a automatic $1,166 ticket because this bike apparently did a wheelie on me. But I'm not going to go into that. It sucks. It is what it is, but if you ride a motorcycle, you're bound to get tickets like that. Especially one that stands out like this. I stick out like a sore thumb. I feel like I'm not going to cover everything that everyone is looking for in this video, but it's just kind of, I'm just sharing my experiences with this motorcycle. And honestly, at first it was all really negative, but I think I was looking at it in the wrong context because, I have an RS4 1000, or RS 1000. I just demoted myself. RS4 1100, and that bike obviously is insane, has an insane amount of torque, insane amount of power. And going from that to riding something like this is it's just a slap in the face. It's like, damn, this thing has no guts. This isn't fast. This isn't, all that. but you can't compare it to a bike like that when it's not supposed to be a bike like that. This is more of like a daily driver, cruise around town kind of thing, while that is just a straight up track bike, which almost can't even be used on a track because it's got so much to it. Especially on tracks around here. We only got like Homestead in Miami, and that is like still not even the best track, honestly. But it's just that this bike, I couldn't compare it to that. It's simple as that. And when I stopped comparing it to my RS34, I started to enjoy it a lot more. Like, this has become a bike that I just daily around town. I'm not looking to go fast. I'm just having a good time cruising. And this is perfect for that. And you know me, with the way I am, I always want to have two motorcycles, but they got to be kind of different. Like, I don't want two 1000cc motorcycles unless like it's a CBR 1000. I want another CBR 1000, but that's another video in itself. Oh, I'm gonna run this. I like to have two different types of motorcycles. One like the RS34, and then the other one something slower or just a different seating position so I can have some variety. And this definitely gives me the variety. I'll show off a little bit of the handling here. Just in these turns, these tires are just phenomenal. The handling is just amazing too. I'm not even leaning off the bike and it just feels great. And U-turns, you see that turning radius? It's just, oh, it was awesome. Just don't move over and we'll be good. A little bit of water there. Spooked me. This bike really doesn't have that much technology apart from ABS brakes, which is really good for beginners. It's just, you know, obviously you got your high beams, you got all the information I showed you on the dash, your blinkers, and then you got a horn. That's it. It's simple as that. It's actually nice per se, because if you look at like my Aprilia RS34, there's a million things inside of that dash. It's really hard to remember how to use the dash, all the different button combinations and all that. But this, there's nothing. It's one little thing for the dash, and then you just get on it and ride, which is pretty good for beginners who are not trying to learn a million different things about all the technology in motorcycles. And something like this doesn't need all that technology. The question is this bike a beginner bike or a bike for like more advanced riders? And in my opinion, it is both. Like, you could be a beginner and start on this. It's not that tall, but it is still somewhat tall, so it can be challenging for shorter people. But the bike in itself is not insanely powerful, so like it is manageable. The only thing is the lower gears do have a lot of torque, and if you're not used to that, things could happen. For an advanced rider, and I like to consider myself an advanced rider, I mean, that's really up to other people to decide, but for me, I feel like I am. This bike is enough. That's all I'm gonna say, is this bike is enough. I think I would definitely like an MT-09 way more than this. That is one thing for sure. But it still is enough power for me to enjoy from day-to-day life. Like, it's something I can take to work and just have some fun on the way to work, but not be like on my Grom, or the Grom that I used to have, and just be full pin just waiting to get there. When this, I have all these a bunch of RPM left to just play around with. It is nice to have all that. I know that a lot of people buy this bike to stunt it, and I'm not a stunt rider, so I'm not going to be buying a cage and all that stuff for this bike and blah blah blah, you know. I know that this would be a sick stunt bike 100%, but that's just not the type of riding I like. If anything, I'm gonna buy a really cheap motorcycle and turn it into my track bike, and that's what I would do. but I'm not going to turn a really nice 2022 MT-07 into a beater bike that is going to be thrown around. I know we don't have good roads here in Florida, like curvy and all that stuff, but we certainly do have some cool things to look at when you ride. We definitely have that. You know what? Let's go into the Daytona 1 area. I don't know what else I can really say. I'm sure there's more information that I can push out about this bike, but I'm not giving you like engine specs or anything like that. I'm just giving you a rider review. And I honestly don't care about torque numbers and how much horsepower a motorcycle has. I just care about the feel. And the biggest thing for me, actually, with any motorcycle that I buy, doesn't matter if it's a Grom. Well, I'm not gonna say because that's a specific motorcycle, but if it's like a mini bike, or if it's a naked bike or a sport bike, it all comes down to the way it feels in the cockpit. When you're sitting in the seat, what you're looking down at has a lot to do with my satisfaction of the motorcycle, and the MT-07 passes on all levels. This is just a beautiful setup. Like I said it earlier, this is perfect just being in line with the bars, but like, man, that just looks so clean, so smooth. And that was one of the biggest motivators for me buying this over like an MT-09. Just because the MT-09 dash isn't as good as this. Oh, we got a little curvy section right here. This used to be all dusty, so it wasn't enjoyable. But that's pretty good. I wonder if my old roommate would send me a video of what happened on this curve here, because it's actually really funny. Well, I don't know if it's funny because the man almost died, but like in the turn over there, I think he got target fixation and the guardrail wasn't there yet, and he ended up hopping the curb and almost going into that water. I'll see if I can get him to send me the video, and if he did, it'll pop up here. This bike is so good for turns. I don't know how many people have actually tried both, like a naked bike and a sport bike, but definitely try. Just go ahead and try, even if it's like test riding at a dealership or something like that, because it's actually, in my opinion, easier to lean over on a naked bike than it is a super sport positioning. But it just has to do with where all the weight is up high. You can just flap it down. Flap it down, not a good term, honestly, but it feels like that. Like, I can get this thing down without any effort. When on a super sport, you gotta lean off and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, it feels way cooler to do it on a super sport, but it's pretty damn easy to keep this thing in a turn. And I think that's good for a beginner, actually, because it just helps. It helps them turn, helps establish confidence. Riding position of this bike is actually really comfortable too. My DRZ was uncomfortable for me. I felt like it was too upright, but this is upright and hunched over, like right in the right mix, that this is perfect for me. I am actually more comfortable in the super sport position riding. I don't know why. This is like the first naked bike that hasn't bothered my back. And I know that seems so backwards. Like, a naked bike bothers my back when most people, their back hurts after riding a super sport, but it's just not the case for me. And this bike was perfect. I can ride it all day long and it feels great. It's not his fault. That is all my fault. I am speeding. Can't get mad at somebody when it is your fault. Getting picky. Go park it right here. I think this motorcycle looks so good from this angle right here. That is like my favorite angle. It looks so mean, so aggressive, and it just looks fun to ride. And it is really fun to ride. I was talking about the leaning over there. You can see I'm not even trying to get this thing down. I am just riding it normally, and just look at the lean angle on that. I know this is still a chicken strip, but I'm not trying to get it down. That's not why I bought this bike anyway, but just on its own, just riding it normally, it's pretty easy to get this thing over. I think one of the best things about a naked motorcycle, by the way, is the fact that I can change the oil without having to take off anything. Like, here's the oil filter, and then there's the drain bolt down there, and then you just fill the oil on this side, and you don't have to do anything. You literally just have to unscrew a few things, and boom, you got an oil change done. Alright, so I'll do a little bit of a price breakdown. I bought this bike for $5,500, and that's actually a little bit below what the lowest trade-in value is of this bike, so it's not a bad deal, but I wanted to pay $5,000. That's just me. I always want to try to pay at least amount as I can, but I think that's still a pretty good deal. And I actually have someone that's supposed to be coming to get this for $6,300 here soon, so I'll actually make a little bit of money off this bike. But yeah, I don't buy motorcycles from dealerships. If I went to go buy this exact thing from a dealership, they would be charging $8,000 for the bike, and then probably another $2,000 in dealership fees, freight costs, and all this other kind of BS that, they don't even do. They say, oh yeah, we're going to clean your bike. If they don't clean your bike, I bought an SP1 CBR 1000. They said, yeah, come pick it up tomorrow, we're going to clean your bike. You know what? That thing was probably dirtier than the day that I saw it. I paid for it. So, I don't know. I think dealerships are just a scam. If you cut out the middleman and go get a bike on Facebook Marketplace, you save yourself thousands of dollars, as long as you can buy a bike outright. If you're looking to finance, then you're stuck doing the whole dealership route. And that's not always the worst, because it is nice to not spend all your money at once and still have money to buy parts and stuff like that. Alright, that is honestly all I have about this bike. It's a really good motorcycle. I think it's great for beginners. I think it's great for people who are a little bit more advanced. It's a great in-between motorcycle. I personally will not be keeping this bike. It is not for me, but it could be for you. I think that you definitely should go to a dealership, get a test ride scheduled, and just go enjoy this motorcycle without your money actually being into it like I am here. But I think it was worth the experience, and I'm glad that I got to try it. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.